Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya. Naya. I hope you are doing great. So I am reading about Great Depression, and I decided to match videos that people have they already put up on Great Depression. And then I am finding out that what happened decades ago, it's more like what it's going on today, but they are not calling it Great Depression. Though there are differences, I can tell you that you cannot compare what happened then to what is going on today due to so many things. Number one is that today we have technology that even when I am so broke, I can actually come out online and talk to people. People might help me and all of that. And people are able to reach out to one another and tell people, the way Snap has been cut off. Even someone from a different state might even buy food for you and weigh bill and all of that makes it easier. Back then, they do not have that privilege. It was community that they had. And one thing was that the Great Depression hit Black people so bad. Now, let me tell us something. You remember when Democrats said that they were not going to open the government, open the government again, right? This is what this man said. He said, for that reason, I am going to cut SNAP benefits, because to him, cutting that SNAP benefit was going to affect Black people in their own mind, because I am going to punish Democrats. Now he is trying to punish Democrats, which are mostly Black people, and also punishing his own people. Why? Because white people benefit more from SNAP benefit. Let's get into this video.
Even before the Great Depression that lasted between 1929 and 1941, the Black community were already not in the best financial positions. Most of the community were sharecroppers, tenant croppers, or low-wage workers, with little land ownerships, fewer savings, and could only access banks that were Black owned. When unemployment hit, it hit them the hardest. Even though it was 25% unemployment for the rest of the country, it was 50% unemployment for the Black community. They were the last to be hired and the first to be fired. And when it came to relief programs like food kitchens, food drives, and charities, Black families were discriminated against and turned away. So they were not able to get those welfare and government assistance services that were afforded to white families. Black farmers suffered huge blows as the cotton prices collapsed, and landowners who got money from the government under the Agricultural Adjustment Act kept the money and fired and even evicted the Black sharecroppers. Even Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs slighted Black people, hiring them, but then segregating them and paying them less than their white coworkers. In 1935, they started the Social Security program, but this program excluded workers that worked in agriculture and domestic work, which at the time was the majority of the Black community. I wonder why they did that. So why am I saying all this? Because this is a story of perseverance. How the Black community responded to all of this showed who they are and the resilience that is built into the DNA of the Black community. As Black families were turned away from soup kitchens, food drives, charities, and other social programs, the Black community pooled their resources, creating mutual aid programs in churches and other community resource groups. Activism, unions, and organizations like the NAACP were born, creating the foundation for the civil rights movement. Black culture flourished through hardship, giving us the Harlem Renaissance, and being the backbone and the influence and the original genome of almost all of the music that we listen to today. Resourcefulness, community resilience, adaptability, and the rise of resistance propelled the Black community through the Great Depression and kept Black businesses afloat while other businesses crashed and collapsed during the Depression. Black-owned companies and banks like Mechanics and Farmers Bank, which was founded in 1907 in my hometown of Durham, North Carolina. Maggie Lena Walker's Consolidated Bank and Trust Company, which was founded in Richmond, Virginia. North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company. Not only did these companies survive the Depression, but they also provided jobs to the Black community and were kept strong by the Black community. The Black and white communities were segregated at that time, so the hits to the banks didn't affect the Black community as harshly as it affected the white communities. So beyond losing work and being turned away for government programs, the Black community still had access to what little funds they had. So when companies like Cadillac, which at the time considered themselves to be a luxury brand, who didn't sell to Black people because they thought that it would bring down the value of that luxurious brand, when they were about to go under because their white population stopped buying, they came to the Black community to save them. Nicholas Dreystedt, who was a German immigrant working for Cadillac, suggested that they open up their market to the Black community because the Black community had been buying secondhand through white mediaries because they couldn't buy new at the dealer. The higher-ups had no choice, and they opened the markets to Black customers. Sales rose sharply, even during the Great Depression, and it saved Cadillac from being cut from GM. While white-owned hair and beauty supply companies collapsed, Black-owned hair and beauty supply companies continued to not only survive, but thrive during the Great Depression. Big companies like Pepsi started to recognize the value of the Black dollar. So in the 40s, they started advertising to Black families specifically, featuring Black professionals, athletes, and families in their ads. They even hired Black salesmen to go promote the company in Black neighborhoods, all of which allowed them to start getting big enough to compete with Coca-Cola. My point is, even during Jim Crow, before Black people had rights, companies understood the value of the Black dollar. And today, the Black community has about $2 trillion in buying power. This is despite our households starting out with less wealth, and our people still being hired last and fired first, especially during economic downturns. As this economy continues to collapse, we can learn from our ancestors, and we have more power and more abilities to do that than they did then. We have technology, we have the internet. There are way more Black businesses now in every single category. We have the ability to pool our funds and decide where our Black dollars are most valuable. We have the ability to increase our financial literacy and play this game on equal footing. As things get tougher in this country, which it will, we have the ability to provide mutual aid, to internally circulate our funds and support Black-owned business. But I venture to say that supporting any business of marginalized groups is going to be important in this fight, as long as they're on the right side of history, that is. And while we are doing all of that, it is very important to still remember how powerful our dollar is. There are people now calling for a general strike. Even the mayor of Chicago is calling for a general strike. And there is also a blackout planned for the highest week of shopping in the year, the Black Friday Cyber Monday week. Between November 25th and December 2nd, the Black Enterprise is calling for a blackout, a complete economic blackout. No work and no spending on anything but Black-owned and other marginalized-owned companies. If you can't get it there, don't get it. Because I think the companies have gotten real bold with these tax cuts and their abilities to pay off politicians. They forgot where they get all of that money from. It's the people. And marginalized communities are their largest customer base, as they try to snub us with DEI cuts and unnecessarily high prices, just so they can make sure they get those bonuses and pay their shareholders. We are in control of their fate. And it's about time that we've reminded them of that.
You ever hear somebody say that Black people weren't really affected by the Great Depression? We were not immune to the worst economic crisis the U.S. had seen up until that point. Not only were we affected, we were hit first. We were hit hardest. And we were left out of the recovery process. Let's talk facts. By 1932, half of Black Americans were unemployed. That's double the rate of white workers. In cities like Chicago and Atlanta, white workers demanded that Black employees be fired first to make room for other white job seekers. Even relief programs and soup kitchens turned Black families away. Or if they did take them, they gave them the bare minimum, while white families got full assistance. But here's the part they don't really talk about: how the effects of this still impact us today. The Great Depression created the modern wealth gap, right? After the Depression, the U.S. government poured money into home loans to help Americans recover. But Black people were locked out of that. Redlining ensured that Black neighborhoods were labeled as high risk, so banks refused to give Black families home loans. Today, only 44% of Black Americans own homes, compared to 74% of white Americans, because we were never given the same starting point. Generational wealth was stolen from the start. While white families got government aid, loans, and economic recovery programs, Black families got left behind. That's why even today, the median wealth of a white family is nearly 10 times that of a Black family. The financial setbacks that Black families faced weren't just about the Depression. They were about who was allowed to recover and who wasn't. No, Black people weren't unaffected by the Great Depression. We were targeted, excluded, and systematically denied the opportunities that helped white families rebuild. And the effects of that are still shaping who owns, who thrives, and who struggles today. They don't teach this for a reason. But history didn't just happen. It created the system that we're living in right now. And if we don't keep talking about it, they'll just keep pretending that it didn't exist.
They fucking starved. They were literally fucking starving, while there was plenty of surplus food that farmers had that they couldn't sell because of the Great Depression. And I'll continue to give you this history lesson, but I just want to say it's so easy to research stuff and find out for yourself. And I kind of gave you the benefit of the doubt in the beginning, and I went to look at your page just to see if maybe you were actually trying to learn something, or if this was just another MAGA way of saying fuck the poor, because That's ultimately what you're doing here. You're basically saying, well, why didn't people survive without food stamps before? They didn't. But I know you don't like to research and learn things, because here's one right here about you think Trump's not a felon now because, anyway, I'm not even going there with you. He's still a felon. Anyway, the original food stamp program was created in 1939 by President Roosevelt, and the reason he created that is because there were people on one side that could not afford food because of poverty, and on the other side you had farmers that had a surplus of food. Now, what the original food stamp system did was it gave purchasing power by allowing these families to purchase food stamps $1 for $1.50 in stamps. And you got two types of stamps with these. You got an orange stamp that could be used to purchase any type of food, and you got a blue stamp that was worth another 50 cents that people could take and use to buy only the surplus products that farmers had. And what this did was allow farmers to be able to sell their surplus food to people who were not able to buy as much food because of poverty. It solved two problems at once. Now, that program eventually ended because we came out of the Great Depression, employment was back up, and it wasn't necessarily needed at that time. However, it was revived under President Kennedy, who had more of a focus on nutrition and dignity and not so much surplus food. And this has evolved into what we have today. But to answer your question simply, food stamps, food assistance has always been a needed thing to some people in America because of poverty. This isn't a new thing. It literally started because people were fucking starving. What's ironic is that you MAGA want to take us back to the 30s, in this case, and in many other cases. Yeah, people have always needed assistance. That is what societies do, is that we come together and we help each other. I wish you guys would understand this more instead of just trying to vilify people that need.
This video is for entertainment purposes only. I'm saying this because I don't want my video to get taken down. Trump administration is saying they're not going to use emergency funding to fund the government to get EBT back up and rolling. Trump said he's not the one to blame for this problem. Democrats are not wanting to vote to get the government back up and rolling. So here we are, weeks have passed that the government has been shut down. Mind you, people that do work for the government still have not received their check. On top of that, because the government is still currently shut down, food banks are now becoming overly crowded to the point where they don't have any food, to the point where they have to have National Guards come in and get deployed to help in the food banks because they need help because it's becoming overly crowded. And I'm starting to think this is going to unlock a door to modern day Great Depression. Because with no money, no food, no assistance, we're going to go into a Great Depression. Because food is extremely too high alongside with everything else. And our president of the United States still lack accountability for what's going on. Thanksgiving is literally next month. And these days are not waiting for anybody. And here we are still currently facing the government shutdown. With non-food assistance, people are going to be hungry. Kids are going to be hungry. There's not going to be any Thanksgiving. Use their money to fund other countries and their needs. But when it comes to us, we're last priority. Yeah, everybody fasten up your seatbelt. It's going to be a lot.
November's food stamps getting cut off are going to probably result in a depression. I study cultural evolution, which is taking a look at the cause and effect relationships that resulted in certain things happening culturally and in other ways throughout history. On that note, I have noticed that there is a little bit of a pattern. About once every 80 to 100 years, there is a significant dip in the overall world market. And in some cases, everyone just gets like super fucking poor for a while, and in other cases, it leads to a depression. Now, statistically speaking, we were probably heading for one anyway, but this basically just kind of sealed the deal. Social assistance programs have existed throughout the entirety of history and have been a huge part of maintaining economic stimulus. So you can have whatever fucking opinion you want about, who's getting the money and whatnot, but the important thing to keep in mind is it's keeping people employed, it's keeping people paid, and it's keeping businesses afloat. When properly functioning, all of the money in an economy should be moving around in a circle. And lately, it has been moving kind of in a circle, but kind of upwards to where you kind of get stuck at the top, which is why everyone hates fucking billionaires. And the government, too, for similar reasons. Now, the thing is, generally speaking, and this is true no matter where you live, poor people spend, rich people hoard. Frankly, the closer you are to the bottom, the more likely you're going to spend because you have to spend in order to cover your needs, and sometimes you will spend on frivolities in order to make sure that you can, have a sense of happiness to some extent. And this is all positive economic stimulus. People who have all of their needs and wants met typically hold on to money for emergency circumstances. This is great self-discipline, but if too many people are doing it, or if the people who are doing it do it too much, this actually results in negative economic stimulus. Which isn't really bad, as this does keep the economy from, having inflation problems. However, it's the loss of the people at the bottom that are going to be a serious problem, especially because, statistically speaking, the more impoverished a nation is, the more crime it experiences. So let's lay out what is probably going to happen if this goes down. Around 43 million people are going to suddenly struggle to find food. Many, if not most of them, will turn to alternative methods. Some of them will try to go to food banks, but food banks are already at capacity. Some will try to go to religious organizations, but speaking from experience, a lot of them are kind of iffy on giving it out. They will, but they try not to. And the sudden surge of reliance is going to result in people genuinely just not being able to get food. Some people will 100% turn to crime, mostly drug dealing and theft, but it will turn to other things as well. All of the stores that are losing the economic stimulus from the people coming in and spending their SNAP benefits are going to be kind of fucked. Even big chain realtors are going to feel the sting immediately. And this is going to most likely cause a spike in prices because of the fact that they're going to have to liquidate a bunch of stuff at a discount. So as we get towards the end of November, a lot of groceries will be cheaper, but it's only going to be the stuff that needs to be moved right away. Everything else is going to go up in price. It's also going to majorly disrupt state and local taxes, which will have long-term effects on the way that we handle our public services. This ripple effect will also impact many other industries, as there's going to be less demand for more stuff coming into those box retail stores, which means that a lot of people who would have regular steady jobs are suddenly going to have a portion of their work cut out. The people who make the food, the people who ship the food, the people who sell the food, they're all suddenly going to have less work, and it's going to be devastating, especially because we're running into the holiday season. November and December typically have a history of keeping the economic activity in America sky high, and it really helps filter money to a lot of people worldwide. This cut happening in November is going to have that, and that will quite literally impact us for all of 2026. Now, the degree in which it fucks with us, I don't know, but I can guarantee it will make prices higher, and it will last most of the next year, if not most of the next couple of years, which will again stagnate economic activity, causing more job loss, more wage stagnation, and more high prices. All this to say, nobody in the country, no matter how much you hate poor people or how much you hate the lazy bum spending all your tax money, no one should want this to happen because it's going to negatively impact all of us. With that in mind, if you have a prepper mindset, this would be the time to start buying canned meat because the fresh meat is going to start being scarce.
Is this the Great Depression 2.0, but since we're still going through it, they just haven't named it yet? Because this doesn't feel like a 2008 crash type of situation. It feels like way more than that. Like, people are not able to afford the cost of living. And then a lot of people right now are losing their jobs, but also the job market is in a horrible place and no one can get a job either. And like, no one can afford anything. Inflation, healthcare is ridiculous. Like, student loans are ridiculous. Everything, all these payments, all this money, it just feels like the economy is, you know what I mean? And then also like the overlap of the Great Depression and World War II, and then thinking about what was happening in Germany at that time, right? But now currently what's happening in America that is similar to what was happening in Germany during that time, where it's like drawing parallels to the two events, you know what I mean? It really just feels like this is the Great Depression 2.0, but they just haven't named it yet because we're like going through it, but we're like unaware. It's like in the background, but like we're aware kind of, but they're not naming it or saying it or explicitly putting that information out there that like, yeah, no, the economy is really not in a good place. Because at this point it's everything, but really what it boils down to is the fact that billionaires were trying to hoard wealth. And so that's what it goes down to. And then plus tariffs, and then plus the cost of everything was already high. People already weren't really able to afford homes, the housing market. It's just really, in my opinion, giving the Great Depression 2.0. But since we're still in it, they just haven't given it a name as of yet.
I'm looking for grandparents and great-grandparents that were born in the 1920s and the 1930s. because they survived the Great Depression. I'm wanting to put together a series of videos on how they survived the greatest economic crises that we've had on this planet, let alone in this country. And if you're in Oklahoma and you don't feel comfortable recording, I would have no problem traveling to you and coming to you. My grandparents aren't around anymore. My grandpa was born in 1923. My grandma was born in 1924. And so I really, and the things that they taught me, a lot of what I'm teaching you all is what they taught me. Because I lived through that, okay? I lived through their education that they taught me. So, but I'm looking for these people so that I can make a series of videos to share with Gen Z and with everyone else on how to survive and then prosper through the Great Depression. So if you have grandparents that are still alive that would be willing to teach, please let me know. Like, send me a DM, comment in this video. I'll reach out to you individually, and let's teach these younger generations on how to be more frugal, how to not shop as much, how to deal with this difficult struggle that we're going through. Because let's get real, there's no reason to repeat history if we can learn from it. Right? That's how we stop repeating history. We learn from history and talk to the people who lived. These people are still alive. There are not a lot of them left, but they're still alive, and I need their help. Let's teach these younger generations. Take care.
I hope you guys know that we are probably going to have a Great Depression way worse than it was in the 1930s. Inflation is keeping up with the stock market, meaning your retirement funds won't be meaning shit in the next 40 fucking years. On top of that, unaffordable housing, unaffordable everything. Let's not forget to pay attention to your food. Notice how it's getting less and less, but it's more expensive. Think about the cost of living going up 10% of each week with every working American. Think about it for a second. It's not about working hard anymore. It's not about working hard for everything that you want, for this dream. This dream is dead. All of this is just legalized slavery at this fucking point. The job market being fucking shitty, that no one can get a job. People that are one mistake away or one paycheck away from being homeless. Our healthcare system not health caring. Homelessness on a rampant rate due to this economy. When I tell you guys, this is going to be way worse than the Great Depression, and it's already having its full effect. And it's the fact that we keep sending money to other countries instead of helping our own. It's always backwards, always working backwards. I wouldn't be surprised once the Great Depression hits again. We are going to go to war, and it's going to be a war economy, just so the economy can reset itself. Total devastation, total.
This is all I got from this video, and it's always really very refreshing learning one or two things from Black people, because from the Great Depression that happened decades ago, and sincerely speaking, it's just like the truth is that they are not calling it Great Depression, right? But you and I can actually understand what is going on, though. Now it's way better. But I feel like as bad as what it's going on today, but I think it is better than what happened decades ago. Why am I saying this? I am saying this because people can easily reach out to someone, like the way I am not in United States at the moment. I can reach out to someone that is not in United States. I mean, the technology kind of made it kind of easier. Technology made it easier for every one of us, right? And now I am going to say this. I really do appreciate how Black people are taking care of one another, because I I am following so many Black content creators, and I see a lot of them donating money to people that have pantries. I see people also starting pantries and all that. Like, they buy food, and also people support them. They buy food and they keep it. People come there to, like, to take care of themselves, like, to ease their pains and all that. But back then, I really do not know how they survived it, because it would have been a huge problem for them. Yes. Couple the fact that there was no technology and the rest of it, but they found a way around it. Now, let me tell us something. I don't know why everything that happen is always targeting Black people. Yes. Why am I saying this? I am saying this because back then, Black people, it affected so much Black people. Today, some of the things they do, why this SNAP benefit was cut was because Donald Trump think he wants to punish Democrats. And I want you to know that each time they talk about Democrats, they are talking about Black people, because majority of people that look like me and some other people are Democrats, right? So to them, the best way to get to them was to cut that SNAP benefit so that it can affect them, right? But heaven has a way of making life easier for people, and also preparing people for some certain things. So now, I understand what is going on is also affecting Black people, but majority of the people that are on SNAP benefit are who? One way they want to punish us, the other way they are punishing themselves. It's crazy, but this is what it is. I will draw the curtain here. Bye for now.